I'm Krista Hill.
And I'm Renee Matsella.
And we are the founders of Tacit Edge, a tech education company dedicated to shifting the demographics of women and visible minorities graduating into product management at top companies around the world.
And this is our podcast, Product for Humans, where we explore the human side of product management. We'll answer all your burning questions like, what is product management? What is a product? How do you get started? And why do you belong in product management? That's right, because you belong. We hope you enjoy the show.
Many of us know that more discovery equals a reduced risk in product and business failure, but we don't do it enough. We have routines and frameworks that have often, within our teams, got us in the weeds doing the work. And rarely do we get a chance to come above the tree line to connect with real users and do real discovery. And of course, the bigger your organization is, it seems the more difficult it is for us to break away from these sprint rituals and our habits. This is hard. And as a product manager, this can be one of the hardest hills to climb with your teams. And I can't tell you how many times it felt so lonely trying to do all the discovery for the team all on my own. But there is a way forward that you can do it with your team. And we're going to talk more about that today. Welcome to season 2 of Product for Humans. I'm your host, Krista Hill. And today we're really going to be talking about, again, moving away from being closer to our assumptions around our users rather than being closer to the real users themselves. We talk a lot about this in our practice, and also how we can influence this process, right? Can we give you the skills to be able to present an activity to your team and not get denied? We're going to give you something today that gives you that tool to stop asking permission to just get better at your job. Welcome, everyone. I've got Chantal, Botana, and Maurice McGinley with me today from the Product Garage. Welcome to Product for Humans, everyone.
Hi, Krista. Thanks for having us.
So, Chantal, let me start with you. You're a fractional CPO and a product coach, and you're a full stack product professional, including customer research, design thinking, experiment-driven validation and innovation, portfolio management, and you're a serious team builder. But you didn't start in product. From what I can see online here, you've got an education and you graduated from New York University. So can you tell us and share with us a little bit about your path into product?
Wow, it's such a great question. Thanks for asking. I don't think any of us started off in product originally or thought about doing it as a career. I think we're all kind of accidental product managers. So yes, I went to NYU and I studied broadcast journalism. I was in print journalism for a while, but my paychecks kept bouncing. So I decided, I need something a little bit sturdier than this. I had to go to the bank every other day begging for my paycheck to be cashed. But, that's print journalism. So fast forward to getting into product. It actually didn't start from there either. I was in the music industry for a while and I was doing video production and television production. And around 1999, I'm dating myself, I realized, there's something to this internet thing and I should see if I can make a lateral move. Definitely did not want to start from scratch again. So I was lucky enough to find a company that was a high growth scale up called Star Media, basically a Hispanic portal like Yahoo, but for Hispanic countries. And I was lucky enough to make a lateral move to a product manager. I didn't even know what a product manager was. And to be honest, going back that far, it was really project management. It was not product management, but it had the title. But I was lucky. There was a bunch of 23-year-olds who are now, rising fast in their careers, but they had no idea how to manage people. And so they let me in on a lateral move. And the rest is kind of history. From there, I have worked at startups, scale-ups, Fortune 500s, and fast forward to today where I coach and advise and fractional CPO. But my heart is with working with the teams themselves. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, Maurice, looks like, again, same thing on the leading edge of product discovery habits for teams focusing on customer needs, solution design, people's business models, and incremental experiment-driven validation. But you started out at Stanford graduating. Can you share with us your path to product from there to here?
Well, to be clear, Stanford was executive education, so I didn't start there.
Okay.
That came later. The beginning of my product adventures was way back when I was working in building trading software in Australia. And my job, I was hired on to be a technical writer to make sure that everything was explained clearly. And it was a very small startup. And I was explaining how to use the software for a while. And then I decided it'd be much easier just to redesign the whole software than to explain how to use it. And so we didn't have any design group and had never thought of having a design group. But it was quite clear after explaining how to use the software, what needed to be done. So I just redesigned it. And that was the start of my product career. Because I'd never been a designer, I did the designs and then I started going to users. And that was the start of my user research career. From there, the company did quite well. And I left and started another company and got experience in the business side. And then moved to New York. And again, working in trading software. And then I made a move into design with Philips Design. Eventually, I ended up being the innovation director at Avast Software, which is the largest consumer cybersecurity company. And I worked there until we got taken over by Norton. Now, I have been working as founder in residence for Deep Science Ventures, which is a venture creation company out of London.
Well, so where are you two located now? What parts of the world do you practice product from?
I am in Galicia, but I get back to the US quite a bit as well. So I'm from DC and New York, but my home base is in Bayona. It's a small town just north of Porto. So I actually do a lot of product community building in Porto.
Cool. And Maurice?
I'm based in Valencia, Spain. Yeah.
All right. So we've covered off where you've come from, and here we are today with the Product Garage. So can you tell us a little bit about the Product Garage and just that whole concept and where it came from and what problem is solved for you all that you've brought it out into the world as a solution?
So where it all started was actually we're doing our own user research, right? So we scheduled a few calls with some fellow product leaders and just had open conversations about where some of their biggest pain points were. And what we realized was that on the leadership side, leaders were a little bit frustrated with there wasn't enough lasting impact. They would go through these big product transformations or agile transformations. They felt like they had empowered teams, but nothing was really sticking. And on the flip side of that, we spoke with individuals who felt like product managers who just felt like they were alone. They didn't have a team to rely on. They couldn't try product discovery. And so we realized that there needed to be a bridge, like a way to get started, but that would be beneficial for both sides. So for those product leaders who were just fed up and frustrated with the lack of lasting impact on the larger transformation programs, and then on the individual contributor side, for the product managers to feel less alone, to have a team, to be able to practice with other product practitioners and to have a team there, but also it goes beyond product managers as well. So anyone is welcome at our product experiment garage, but it's basically that bridge to getting lasting impact and doing it in a way that's not so costly. It's an hour of your time. We do this free session once a month. It's an hour of your time. And so we bring people in. And then if people want to bring it into their own organization, that's great too. But this is for product practitioners and it's open to anyone in the field.
I love this because it reconnects people with the goal of that transformation with an activity that puts them again back into that mindset, even just once a month, right? Like every time I say the word transformation on a call, like a digital transformation, and the chill just goes down everyone's spine. Like everyone's got a transformation fail story. And it's like, I think it was James Clear that said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And it's like we in transformation, sometimes we see it as a one and done, like, oh, we've transformed, but actually no, there needs to be as systems that you create that are in place that help hold you to the level of those goals. And what I love about this concept is it's 1 hour, like once a month. You don't have to ask permission to do this from anybody, but you can get on a meeting invite. And it's one thing product managers don't know is that if you just put people on a meeting invite and then reach out to them one-to-one to make sure that they're there, you can make this happen. It doesn't need to be this whole theatrical production, right? We do a lot of discovery theater, I believe, right? In our work, like pretending that we're doing the right kind of discovery, but this could actually be the thing that is real, and it's 1 hour. So I know we danced around a little bit around the activity. So now can you tell us, Chantal, like what is a product garage? When I get my team there, if I do that work, if I send out the meeting invite, follow up as a pro tip one-to-one, just to make sure everybody can make it. And then if they're like, oh, not another meeting, bribe them with snacks, like do whatever you have to do to get them there and say how important their contribution is to the team and this activity. And again, it's just 1 hour. What can they expect when they walk in there? What's going to happen?
So when you walk into a product garage, you're going to break down. First of all, you're going to propose a challenge for the team being the wider product community, for the team to vote on. Right. So actually, when we first started, we tried to get through everybody's challenges, but we realized that we weren't going deep enough. So we've experimented ourselves, and where we are today is that everyone can pitch one or more product challenge. And that could be a problem. It could be a potential solution. So you can pitch it, and then we all vote on it. And so the one that's deemed the most interesting for the sake of that session is the one that we then work on, and we go deep on it. We break down assumptions. We then prioritize those assumptions, and we actually come up with several lean experiments that the person who proposed the challenge could actually walk away with and start to run back in their own company or on their own. It depends on, if they're in a startup, if they're building something themselves. But the 4 things that we will do is break down the assumptions, come up with a list of experiments, then we'll want to extract insights from that. So you want to make sure that you have some sort of a success metric against it. I think that's really hard for teams that really struggle with doing that.
And it's not the success metric. It's whether or not it solved the problem that it was designed to solve. I just want to be clear on that. Yeah.
No, 100%. And then the last thing that we'll encourage folks to do once they leave the session and they take this back to their teams, or they go ahead and run the experiment, is to make sure they carve out time to actually decide whether they should kill it, pivot, or pursue it, right? So kill, pivot, or persevere. Not enough teams are making the decision proactively. They're just moving it along, and, confirmation bias gets in there. This is the solution they were going to do. Then that becomes, discovery theater, right? Like if you're not making the tough calls, the hard decisions on whether or not you should pursue the idea, then you're just into product discovery theater.
It is amazing. I think that when we talk about the ability to kill something, I think all of us have a story where we were mid-build and we knew it was going to bomb. Like we just knew, but nobody was saying anything, right? As individuals, if we'd had a place where we could speak about that freely, and I could look across the table or on the Zoom call and look at someone else and say, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And then as a group, we could do an activity to surface whether or not maybe we can't decide to kill it in that meeting because we don't have the authority to do that, right? And a lot of teams, this is why we get so confusing around titles like product owner and product manager. Like you don't always have, depending on where you are in your career, you don't always have the autonomy to be able to make that call. But when you can create statistical evidence that there is some proof here that we should pivot or kill it, that can go to the next level, it's well thought out and it's no longer opinion. We can back it with some sort of factual data. And I think like when you think about just one activity in an hour, how you could surface that level of risk, how powerful that would be for teams.
Yeah, and I just want to say one other thing, and then I'm going to pass it over to Maurice. Just so you know, when you're beginning, you don't even need the statistical relevance. I think the statistical relevance is great when you've got something that you can A/B test against each other. But way in the beginning, we want you to go so lean. It could be you're going to talk to 5 customers, and your success criteria is that 3 out of 3 out of 5 say the same thing without you guiding them. So whatever it is, the small measure, you're looking for signals that will ultimately get you to that statistical relevance if you have a wide enough audience for that. But you're just looking for those signals in the beginning that tell you should keep going, right? Maurice, I know you want to chime in on this.
First, I'm not sure we established when we're talking about the product experiment garage. The way we're doing it now, at least when we're running the public sessions, is it's product managers or product people, so designers, developers, user researchers. They're coming in from different companies. So the ones we're running publicly you get peers from different walks. And the great thing about that is you're getting different perspectives because you're talking about different frameworks, different approaches. Talking about your own problem and raising your own issues is good because people have different ways of approaching the solution, different ways of even understanding the problem. And that's very useful. And that also is why we have the voting at the beginning. If you were doing this for your own team, your challenge is probably much clearer and people will come to consensus on that quickly. So the voting isn't such a big part. But it is an interest. When we do it publicly, it's very rewarding to hear the different challenges people have. Because like you said, being product manager is often lonely because although you interact with all the different teams, you're actually not treated as an insider. Because you interact with all the teams, you tend to be an outsider of all the teams. So it's good to have this meeting with other product managers and you all understand the situation. And then you share your problems, and the range and different types of challenges that people have is instructive. So you learn different companies, different individuals are just in the different stages of development. It's a wide variety and range of problems. Then we vote, and then as Chantal says, we go through the problem. And then the other comment I wanted to make just on what you just said on the importance of quitting, the importance of killing, because opportunity costs. And in terms of statistics on that, I think the number one that team should have is the number of failed experiments. Because if you're not running the experiments, if you're not stopping bad ideas, then you don't have time to pursue the good ideas. Yep. And it's very tempting to continue. Yeah, opportunity costs, sunken cost fallacy, because you worked on it that it's worth something. But no, you need to be a little stern about that and just drop the ones that you haven't. Be brutal about it and get quality through quantity. So just keep running experiments that forces you to have them in small enough increments so that you're not investing too much in any bad idea. And then it's together with the quality through quantity, killing ideas and concepts that aren't working so well so that you're not suffering the opportunity cost. It's the equivalent of, it's almost like the magic of compound interest, except it's for products.
It's measuring the discount you got on your failures, right? Like the more failed experiments represents the discount metric that you got on not paying full price for each mistake. And this is the one sort of unicorn stat that we've had such a hard time in industry, I think, articulating is how do we measure the discount we got on our failures instead of it being anecdotal, right? And just think if we could have that as product people, if we could be measuring that and celebrating that, then it moves us away from this perfectionist culture, right? We struggle so hard with that. Everybody needing to be perfect and never failing. It's like, but what if failure represented a positive reinforcement, again, on getting a discount on mistakes? And again, to your point, Maurice, like just the quality of the work we are delivering versus the quantity of the mistakes that we're making on the way there. How can we make this a relationship that we can finally connect the dots and feel good about it?
Yeah.
It's a measure of learning in a way.
Yeah. And the thing about the product experiment garage is that it's a very cheap way to do it. There is not much cost, right? Even if you feel like you don't have permission to do it. And we should talk about that because I don't think you should have to ask for permission to do this. It's an hour of your time. If you can come with your team, great. If you want to come on your own, it'll be helpful. And then you can bring it back to your team because you can do this in-house as well. You can come to the one that we offer where you'll be with a mix of other product folks and you'll get the different perspectives. You can then take the same thing and do it in-house with your team. And if you can't find 60 minutes to do this, then you have bigger problems.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about step one. I'm a product manager. I've got a product problem. I've probably got a lot of them, depending on where I am in my career and the type of product that I'm working on. I sign up for the product garage. I come to the event. It's online. I'm surrounded by other product people who also have product problems. Step one is we all pitch our idea of the thing that we want to learn more about, right? We want to surface more assumptions. We want to learn how we might experiment on, is this a good idea? Should I proceed with it? Is that what I'm tracking so far, correct?
Yep. We probably won't get to whether or not it's a good idea by the end of the session, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to run the experiment to help you decide whether or not it's a good idea. But yes, to all of that. And you'll walk away with the ability to test whether or not it's a good idea.
Amazing. So we've got everybody votes. And the beauty of being in a room full of other product professionals is you get that exposure to different levels of thinking from all over the world. And I think, Maurice, you talked about this product management, even though we are surrounded by people all day, every day, meeting after meeting, it does feel lonely. And one of the things for your career, I always recommend, especially in our practice, is get with other product people that don't work in your organization. You need to figure out where your blind spots are. Because in your own echo chamber, in your own organization, you don't get to surface that because your environment is fairly controlled and you don't get to see outside how other product folks are practicing. And this is a very valuable way of looking at other people's practices and learning from them and seeing yours and being able to contribute to theirs too as well. So I show up, I pitch my idea, say mine was the most amazing, everybody wants to work on it. Then what's step number 2? What do we do with that idea?
So from that, we give everybody a few minutes to ask questions. So the person will go deeper, right? So because you're going to give like a 2-minute pitch, then the challenge that was chosen, that person will give us like a 10-minute more context. During that 10 minutes, everyone else will also be able to ask some clarifying questions. In the meantime, each of us will start writing down some assumptions that we would like to have proven or disproven, right? So you're doing both. You're listening, you're asking clarifying questions, and you're starting to write your own assumptions that you would have if this was your product and you were running through it. And then from there, we start to prioritize them.
So I've got my problem. Everybody contributes assumptions. And of course, because it's a global environment, you'll get people from all different walks of life contributing assumptions, which is incredible when we think about reducing risk with diversity in your teams. This is one of the ways that you can do it, is by getting a cross section of the world and individual people in all walks of life coming in and giving you perspective that you would never have even thought of. Once we prioritize the top ones, that would probably blow your mind, and your top 3 are probably nothing you've ever considered. Say we take those top ones, and then what happens next?
There's one thing that I think is important in this step as well that I should have mentioned. It's that people have a tendency to come up with one big assumption on the entire solution, and that's not what we're looking for here. If you've got one big assumption on the solution, then you're already thinking you're building this. But what we want you to do is to break it down in terms of viability, feasibility, and desirability. All of that leads to value, right? So we actually want there to be a list of 20 or more potential assumptions that you might need to test. And then we're only going to pick the riskiest ones. So the ones that you have the least confidence on, because you're not going to test everything. You're just going to test the ones that have the most risk. Yep.
Yeah, this is the most important part, I think, of the session is the assumptions. So we take some time and we make sure that we go broadly enough, as Chantal was saying, but also try and break them down. So assumptions have dependencies. Will this demographic buy our product? Will it be attractive to this product? That depends if they like the taste of peanut butter, and that depends on if they're allergic to peanut butter. We want to break it down to potentially more and more specific assumptions. And so that's the other thing we're trying to get in there. And that's the other thing that comes out in the discussion, because when we're prioritizing them and when we're designing experiments, the most specific assumption that the higher level assumptions depend on, that's all we need to test.
Yep. And I like that you called out the specificity aspect, because that is something that we do encourage folks to think about. The more specific you can be, the better off your testing and learning will be, right? So it's not enough to just to say, we believe that our customer, who's your customer? Which customer? And is it their first time buying your product? Are they a repeat customer? Like Maurice said, are they allergic to peanut butter? So whatever you can be specific about, the more specifics, the better.
Awesome. Okay, so we've broken down our assumptions. We've evaluated them for risk. We've chosen the riskiest one. We move that forward then to the next step. And what are we doing next?
You want to take that, Maurice?
The next step, we're designing the experiments. And so again, this is everyone focusing on the same assumption, but working separately. And we'll take some time and everyone comes up with an experiment. And the key thing here is we want to know what the metric is. So we're asking, and people will have different ways of doing it. We want different, from their experience, they'll have different ideas of how to validate it. And sometimes, actually, other times, people converge quite quickly on one or two measures. We'll be proposing experiments. And then after everyone has had time to design their own or suggest some, then we'd share them. And we share them one at a time. We explain, and people who have similar approaches will add if they need to, or else just add theirs to the board until everyone's gone through and we've talked through and commented on the set of experiments. And at this point, we're already most of the way through our time.
Yeah.
We'll have a set of experiments, and the person whose challenge it was will then talk about how it fits into their actual situation and which ones are more relevant to them.
Amazing. So in 1 hour, I could literally tap the minds of people from all walks of life, all different experiences and products to help me surface risks in a move and help me figure out what my next right experiment would be to get me closer to knowing more about the problem that I'm solving.
100%.
I love this.
Yeah.
You know, we said this like so many times that product is a practice, but we don't have anywhere where we can just go practice. You know, and it's a team
Yes.
sport, but it's not like a soccer team where we can get a bunch of product managers together and get a team together and go to our practice. And this is, I think, a way that I really want people to start looking at their careers and how they are practicing. You as a product manager are not just living in your company. You are part of a community and of a think tank of other product individuals. And we have to create these pathways to connect with one another. And that's what I love so much about this. In 1 hour, you could be randomly put in a room with minds you would never have access to on a day to help you take your next step in your product. And you are not alone. You don't have to be, right? These options exist. And literally for an hour, what do you have to lose?
And you say about the practice. So there are two sides to it. If your challenge is chosen, it's fantastic because you just get a lot of really directly relevant input, different perspectives. If your challenge isn't chosen, it's really a lot of fun to practice. You know, you're practicing, you're making your own proposals, you're practicing your own analytical skills, and then you're putting it in context of your peers and other people from different walks. And, you know, are you thinking along the same way? Are there new ways that didn't occur to you? And it's first of all, it's very fun. And it's also helps you just broaden your horizons and sharpen your point.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all looking for these mythological mentors within our organization. Like everybody comes to product thinking there's going to be somebody there that's going to be a total rock star, that's going to take me under their wing, show me everything there is to know about product. And then we get all disappointed where 5 years into our career, that person doesn't materialize. We've never met anybody yet that we admire really in the product realm. We're reading books, but they're not working. Everybody wonders why. And the reason why we read these books and we're super inspired by them, like say, one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get all day long is like, oh, Krista, I read Marty Kagan's book, Transformed. I am so into it. Now I'm going to try and find an org that operates like that. And
most of those orgs are
like,
aspirational, right? It's
but also
okay.
You have to create it.
Yeah.
He's giving you the recipe. You have to create it. It's not something you inherit. You never inherit that environment. You have to co-create it with your team. And he's giving you that recipe, but not necessarily the nuggets on how to. And what I love about this is that you are bringing some of those product first principles and like that human first element too, with connection with other humans, so that when we go to leverage our AI tools, we don't start with them, right? We can start with activities like this, reconnecting us with other humans, other minds, other ideas, and then we can bring all of this into our practice and use our AI tools to pour gasoline on it. And that's what I love about how refined our practice is starting to get. You're not out there on your own anymore. You don't have to be self-taught. You don't have to wing it. There are enough of us out there that you can lean on as a community. And I really appreciate what you guys have built here, because this was a huge struggle in my career, I'll tell you.
Oh, so that's great to
passion
hear.
and the enthusiasm.
Yeah. There's two things I want to say now, because this is a great thing. So we've talked a bit about this being alone. I have to say that there's 3 or 4 folks who come to our product experiment garages almost every month. And before, we used to do it every other week. We used to do it bi-weekly. That was a little bit hard to maintain. Now we do it monthly. And they're there almost every single time. When they can't make it, they send a note letting us know that they can't make it and apologizing. And one of the reasons why we heard from one person was that he feels like we are his team. He doesn't have a team or anybody that works this way. But happening with him is it's giving him the courage to bring this back into his own organization. And I know that Marty Kagan talks a lot about corporate courage, but he normally talks about that from the leaders have to have courage to do these transformations. I think this is the reverse corporate courage, right? You need to have the courage as a PM to do this. And if you get a little bit of practice doing it, maybe with the wider product community, you'll have the courage to take this back and do it in your own organization, right? So this is the corporate courage from the other side.
To try in a low stakes environment. There's no shame, just like how everybody in the trades learns, like the trades figured this out, right? They do internships, apprenticeships, where you can try in a low stakes situation and then gradually put yourself in a higher stakes version of it until you decide to drop it in your own company, where that may feel like to you a very high stakes play, because as product people, if we do something and the meeting flops and it's a total disaster, everybody hears about it. Right. And so we shy away from trying new things on the job, which is the highest risk activity you can do as a product manager, because then you're not surfacing the risks in your product. You're just managing the risk on your own reputation. But if you had a place where you didn't have to worry about your rep for 60 minutes and you could try some silly, wild thing that you would have never tried in the workplace. And what if that was the one nugget that was really you and how you tick, and that was the most valuable contribution in the room in that 60 minutes? Now you've tried it and you just realize that just being you and chasing how your mind works and doing it in a way that there was no high stakes situation about it can help you discover your real product brand as an individual, right? Some of the most powerful stuff I think that we can bring into the workplace is finding our confidence along with our competence, but being ourselves in the process. And we don't have to be the corporatized thing that we are in this workplace because we're afraid to be seen. You could come in here, be seen, try some wild stuff, find where you're comfortable, and then start to bring that into where you are. And you can create your own path in this world instead of trying to follow the cookie cutter version, right?
Absolutely. And even if you felt like you don't have a product challenge or you're not comfortable with bringing a challenge to the table for the first time, you can come and just share your expertise, right? We're interested in your perspective. I wouldn't say that people should just come and observe. We want you to, if you're going to come, you should participate, but you don't have to be the one presenting a challenge. You can be the one that is just helping write down some assumptions and helping people craft their experiments. So if you're feeling a little bit timid, come anyways.
It's amazing. So how do we find you? If I wanted to do this, where do I go? How do I get started?
You go to product-garage.eventbrite.com. So we're on Eventbrite. They're monthly. They're not always on a Wednesday or Thursday. We're playing around with different dates. Typically, we put them on the second or third Monday of the month, but we're moving it around so that we can get more people in there.
Awesome. So
Also,
sorry, Maurice, go ahead.
Also, if you want to bring your team and vote for
Game the system.
vote for your own, yeah, if you want to game the system and vote for your own challenge, that's totally welcome.
Awesome. They love the enthusiasm, I'm sure is probably welcomed in the room, right? Okay, I'll put all of that information for folks listening in the description so that you know where to click and to link to find these folks. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for just thinking about your practice and what worked for you and the things that you knew were high value that you wanted to share with the world. And thank you for productizing it so that the rest of us can join. And for product managers that are just starting out, that are in like year 1 to 3, that are probably struggling the most with, this is your on-ramp. Nobody's coming to help you. Okay, you need to take this kind of action on your own and find these sorts of activities. And this is a high quality way to spend an hour to help expand and increase your level of competency in your practice. And if you're in year 5 to 7 and you feel like you're stuck in your career and you need to see some new product challenges in order to expand your mind past the ecosystem and the products that you're working on right now, this is a huge opportunity. But what I want everyone to think about at the end of this podcast is, how much am I exposing myself to other product problems to stimulate my mind, to create this environment of critical thinking, to help me better even in the workplace and on the problems that I'm working on right now? What am I doing to feed that curiosity and to feed these habits of discovery? And again, you're not alone. Everybody struggles with this. This is the biggest and the weakest point in product across the world. It's not just you. It's all of us. So thank you, Chantal and Maurice, for coming and sharing the Product Garage with us. And for everyone who's listening, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Product for Humans, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, rate and review this podcast, and you might find your review in a future episode. Please subscribe to Product for Humans wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. To get more information about Product for Humans and our content, please visit our website at tacit-edge.com, tacit-edge.com. We'll see you next time. Okay, should we do it one more time?
Sweet. Yeah, let's do it.